Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are back with another brand new Recur release. This is the final of this wave of new Recur figures that have just recently hit the market. They seem to be releasing in threes, and as we had this time, we had the Tyrannosaurus Rex, the Spinosaurus, and now the Therizinosaurus. And this one definitely looks to be really cool. Absolutely one of the more unique versions of a Therizinosaurus out on the market. I can say that straight out of the gate. You can see the box art is pretty much the standard. We've got the Therizinosaurus name and then again the name of the dinosaur itself. And we've got an image of the dinosaur, and then down here it states the scale is 1/48th scale. Up on the top you can see the Recur logo, and if we turn the box around here on the back, just a little bit more information. So let's pop the box open and check it out. Once you open the box up, you then have one of these cards inside, just like we've had for each of the newer releases. And then you can see on the back just a little bit of extra info here on our Therizinosaurus. Really fun. Again, really high quality. Like, it actually is pretty thick and quite solid and definitely high quality. And then we've got our Therizinosaurus itself, and you can see definitely a nice looking but quite unique looking version of this species. Now, I think one of the most striking aspects to this one that you'll probably notice instantly is the head sculpt. The head sculpt has a very similar look to a Dinosaurus over a Therizinosaurus. Now, to my knowledge, I don't think we've found one, since I last read about it, but I believe we are still missing the skull of Therizinosaurus. So I think this was basically Recur's attempt at just taking a little bit of artistic liberties with their figure, giving it a little bit of a different look compared to your usual versions that you see out. I know they based the skull off of lots of other similar, related species, and that's how we've come up with the look for the head of Therizinosaurus. So technically, I guess there's no real way to say for sure that Recur is right or wrong here. They just went a little bit, artistic in their own right and gave it something a little bit different from most other Therizinosaurus figures. But I think it looks really cool. They definitely have a very highly detailed sculpt, and as per usual, just like with all of these new releases that they've had out, the figure is so much nicer than any of the older Recur figures. Like, the quality, the overall appearance, the fine detail, everything on this is of the highest quality, like all of these newer Recur figures have had, recently. They truly are beyond impressive, if you ask me, and you can definitely see that again here with this brand new Therizinosaurus. So if we bring it closer, I think we'll just take a closer look right here. I've tried to improve the lighting a little bit here, so maybe I can just, take my closer looks here. So you'll have to let me know if you like this way or in the more traditional kind of closer look like I've been doing. But if you start up here in the head sculpt of our Therizinosaurus, you can see it looks really nice. We've got the eyes painted with like a red-orange, a nice black pupil. They do have a gloss coat. We can also see a little bit of pink added, if my camera would focus on it, a little bit of pink added to the nostrils, which is a nice touch. I really quite like the fact that they've included that. We can also see that we basically have a light brown for the primary body color, and it darkens to a darker brown as you lead out there toward the snout of the dinosaur, which looks really cool. We can also see that same thing going on here for the lower jaw. Really nice transition, nice and gradual and smooth. The dinosaur is sculpted with its mouth in an open position. We can see the tongue in there, and just like with the other recent Recur releases, I love the fact that the tongue looks like it is a separate piece that's been applied. It helps to add more realism, I think, to the figure. We have a nice pinkish tone for the inside of the mouth. You can see the skin stretching there, again with the dinosaur opening its mouth, letting out some form of a vocalization or coming in for a bite to eat. I'm not really too sure. But overall, again, we basically have like a nice skin textured sort of a look for the face. As you start to see some feathers picking up here on the lower jaw, you can see we kind of ease into the feathering of our dinosaur, but once it starts to pick up, it picks up in a big way. You can see again it starts out pretty small, but of course increases in size as we continue to move down through the body. We do have a slightly darker shade of brown moving along the back, lighter shade of brown moving down here along the side of the dinosaur, and there's also like a tan that sort of circles around the eye and starts to stripe down the neck, and that doesn't really stick with kind kind of like a striping effect. In fact, you actually see it kind of taper away almost right away. But as we continue to move down the neck, you see the feathers look really nice on it overall. They've also applied a dry brushing, which you can see is definitely helping to kind of highlight the detail, at least in the back of the dinosaur, quite nicely. But as you move down, you start to see those tans pick back up again. You can see them showing up randomly through the course of the figure. There's no real rhyme or reason, it seems, as far as the way that they're placed. They're just kind of sporadically placed through the course of the figure, meshing with the other various browns that we have. And there are definitely quite a few different shades of browns that I can see showing up here through the course of the figure. But the feather detail is incredibly impressive. As you can see, if we get nice and close, that feather detail pops, and it's also sculpted in a really realistic way where there's kind of like lots of inconsistencies to the feathers, definitely giving it more of a lifelike look rather than a generic look, which is a great thing. Moving down into the arm of the Therizinosaurus, you can see again it looks kind of bulky, at least as you lead into the arm from like the shoulder area. You can also see a little extra plumage here kind of leading off of the back of the elbow and the back of the arm. As we lead down, we do have our classic Therizinosaurus nails, again something that this dinosaur is very well known for. You can also see we transition to a dark brown for the fingers, and then as we lead out into the nails, we transition back from that dark brown to a lighter tone, kind of like a light tan for the nails, and I think it looks quite nice overall. Definitely a really smooth transition to that area as well. And if you look at the undersides of the hands, you can see how the feathering kind of stops leading into the hands, and we again have a skin textured look for the fingers and the palm of the hand. But as you lead down, you can see, of course, that bulkiness to the body of our Therizinosaurus. You can also see that nice pudgy belly right there that you like to see. We can see the hip bone right here as well. As we lead down, the muscle definition is there. You can see it. It's not super obvious because it's covered in feathers, but Recur did a great job, in my opinion, of highlighting that muscle definition while still keeping that feathering right there, which looks really nice. And as you lead down, you can see again some more different variations of browns. Definitely a different shade of brown there compared to here, and then a lighter shade down here as we lead down closer to the foot. As we lead down to the foot itself, you can see we again return to a dark brown, just like we saw up there in the hands. You can see some scoots moving down through the feet down into the toes. Again, the nails are painted with a light tone, but also have a little bit of that darker brown mixed in. And again, I think the skin texture itself looks quite nice as you move through the course of that foot. Obviously, you can also see how this foot is picking up off of the ground. These toes are just basically leaving the ground as the dinosaur walks along. And then as we lead back up, you can see again the feather detail increases. Becomes quite fluffy, honestly, on the dinosaur. We have more of that light tone kind of leading out, but that starts to disappear. And then we transition to a different shade of brown out there for the plumage on the end of the tail. And you can see that feathering as well looks really quite nice. Definitely a nice impressive size of the feathers there out on the end of the tail. If we take a look from the other side, you can see again it looks really nice. I love how the feathers are just kind of all over the place, exactly what I would expect for this dinosaur. And as we lead back up, you still see that nice dry brushing moving over the top of the figure, and then we continue to lead along. You're not going to see too much of a difference from one side to the other when it comes to this one, because again it's basically just kind of standing there like it had maybe just taken a step, or maybe it's in the process of taking a step actually, again because this foot is kind of picking up off of the ground. But you can see the feathering and everything looks pretty much the same over here as it did on the first side. You can see the foot sculpt again looks quite nice, just like we saw on the first side. And then we lead back up. The arms are held almost in the same position as far as what we see on the other side. The biggest difference over here would be the fact that this leg is taking a step forward, so you don't see the stomach quite as much. It's kind of obscuring it now with the elbow and the thigh kind of moving together, moving closer together at the very least. But again, that light tone is really smooth when it comes to the application. I love how subtle it is when it comes to the way it's added through the course of the figure. And you can see how the head is now facing away from us, of course, on this side. You've got a nice shot of that face, that beautiful face for our Therizinosaurus. Again, that nicely painted eye. And as you move down along the underside of the dinosaur, you have really fine feather detail down here, which you can see again. Looks quite nice. I can almost sort of make out like the look of maybe some skin texture sort of breaking through some of that light feathering as well, which again looks good. And we also have in general a lighter tone of color here on the underside of the dinosaur, similar in tone to this kind of patterning that you see moving through the body, but definitely a little bit darker. And as you move down through the course of the underside, you'll see again that light tone follow all the way out until you reach out here again with that darker brown tail. But overall, it is definitely a really cool looking Therizinosaurus, and honestly another absolutely awesome figure from Recur. I'm very impressed with their new stuff. I feel like the figures honestly are getting better and better. As far as a size goes, for a length from the snout to the tail, about 9.5 inches or around 24 centimeters. Yeah, 24 centimeters. And then for a height, to the top of the head, about 6 3/4 inches or just a hair under 17.5 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect A human being next to our Recur Therizinosaurus, and you can see it's got a pretty decent size to it. It's definitely taller than Mr. Papo T-Rex, which is a nice feat to take claim to, but in general, I would say it's a decently sized version of a Therizinosaurus without it being too large or too small. And then just a few randoms here. We have the Safari Ltd Eutyrannus as well as the Schleich Diabloceratops next to our Therizinosaurus. Then we've got two incredible Therizinosaurus figures here together, as we have the PNSO version next to the Recur version, which you can see the PNSO version is definitely a little bit smaller than our larger Recur release. And just in case you don't have the PNSO Therizinosaurus, here is the PNSO Dinosaurus next to our Therizinosaurus from Recur, helping to give you an idea of how these two size up next to each other. We also have the TNG Therizinosaurus, which you can see is actually a little bit taller than our Recur version. And we'll just kind of continue to shift back and forth, I guess, because here we've got another Dinosaurus, this time from GR Toys, next to the Recur Therizinosaurus. But then we've also got the How Long Good Therizinosaurus, which you can see is actually pretty darn similar in size to the Recur release. I would say they are pretty much right there in the same similar size range, with the How Long Good version maybe being slightly bigger, but not by much. And then we have one final comparison, as we have the Recur Tyrannosaurus Rex and Therizinosaurus next to each other here, just to kind of iron out how these two figures would size up next to each other as well. So this brand new Recur Therizinosaurus is really nicely done. I know there were some people that had kind of mixed feelings on the head, because the head is a bit more speculative than most Therizinosaurus head sculpts we see, but I actually really quite like it. And who knows, maybe in fact the Therizinosaurus did look this way. I can always appreciate artistic liberties taken, especially when we don't know for sure what the dinosaur would look like. I mean, we've got a pretty good idea, but I can always appreciate when somebody goes out on a limb with something, because I mean, look at, we thought we knew what the Spinosaurus looked like, and that thing changes every other week. But you can see this Therizinosaurus definitely looks nice from head to tail, a very highly detailed sculpt, really nice naturalistic pose, kind of looking like maybe it's threatened, but at the same time I'm not so sure, because the arms aren't held up into the air or anything like it's ready to kind of defend itself. In my opinion, I feel like it's just a nice naturalistic visual of a Therizinosaurus maybe feeding from a tree or something along those lines, but the pose is really nicely done. We also have a lot of really nice fine detail, especially in the feathers. The feather detail is incredibly crisp and very impressive. This is our first chance to really take a look at a feathered dinosaur with these new Recur releases, and I will say I'm extremely impressed with how good the feather detail looks, and definitely excited to see more feathered dinosaurs come from them at some point in the near future. The paint scheme is also really well done. I love the tones of color chosen. I think it's all very nice and naturalistic. Also kind of flashy without being too flashy, which is a great thing, and it's all applied really nicely. There's a lot of very impressive variation of color through the course of the figure, as well as really nice light dry brushing techniques and everything used, really smooth transitions when it comes to, you know, switching up colors and stuff. So the paintwork is also very, very nicely done. So overall, an absolutely gorgeous Therizinosaurus if you ask me, and definitely another figure worth picking up. So if you are interested in grabbing this, this, I will include a link in the description to the Recur Amazon store, because that is exactly where you will find this figure. I don't know for sure if it's on there, but it's definitely coming very, very soon, along with all of the other Recur figures I have recently reviewed, which would be the Triceratops, the Mosasaurus, the Tyrannosaurus Rex, the Spinosaurus, and of course, the Brachiosaurus. So if you are interested, make sure you check the link in the description. Head on over to the Recur Amazon store, grab yourself some of these amazing figures, and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.